Baruch Hashem. Okay. Alright, Kuf Samach Tes, 169, page 564 in the bilingual edition. So, we've been discussing about Hanhagas HaMazal, Hanhagas HaYichud, how Hashem is constantly perfecting the world, or leading the world to its perfection. Hashem is orchestrating events behind the scenes, Menashe. Right? He's running things, Hashem's running things, because He wants the whole world to realize one day that He is one. In order for that to happen, we said that Hashem allows evil to exist, and not only that, but He allows evil to grow. So that before Mashiach comes, Hashem will destroy that evil, and there will be a bigger revelation of Hashem's oneness when people realize, wow, the only power that exists in the world is Hashem. So the more evil that exists that Hashem destroys is a bigger revelation. And we said because of that, tzaddikim, righteous people, they suffer. Because why? Because when evil is strong, the righteous suffer. So now we're left with a question. The neshama is left with a question. Amra neshama, amnam imkei nigzer amr she'ein schar v'einish b'olam haza klal el b'olam haba. It should come out that there's only reward and punishment in the next world, not in this world, right? Shouldn't tzaddikim, they should just be, if we're allowing evil to grow, that the righteous could suffer, then why should there be reward in this world? So Amra Seichel, the intellect responds, and okay, that's not how it works. So you need to know an important introduction. The rabbi said, there was a famine in the days of David, King David. Iker Osantia Shalo Lo Hayroilios May David. Really, it shouldn't have happened in the days this famine in the days of King David. Rather in the days of King Shaul. Ela al Yedei Shahaya Shaul Grufish Shel Shikma Gilgul HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ve'aviyu B'mei David. But since the generation of King Shaul, they weren't able to handle this punishment. It happened in the days of King David. It says furthermore, Hapishtani Hazek Shehu Boidik, Pishtanu Eno Boidik, Ella. I don't know. I don't have the rest of the words of the Medrash here in Hebrew, but in English it is that when a flax producer puts his flax to the test, he tests only his strongest flax. Meaning that when Hashem punishes somebody, He only gives it to those that are able to handle it. So, the days of King Shaul, really they deserved at that time to be a famine, because King Shaul destroyed the city of Kohanim. So really, during the days of Shaul, they deserved to be punished. But they weren't able to handle it, those people. So the punishment waited until the days of King David. So too, also, sometimes people are deserving of punishment, but Hashem only gives it to those that can handle it, which is usually the tzaddikim, the righteous people. Right? Hashem also only gives tests to people that are going to respond positively, or going to have a chance of conquering it. If there's no chance, the person's a rasha, there's no chance that he's going to conquer a test, then Hashem's not going to give it to him. He gives it to the righteous. Continues the Ramchal. So why is he bringing this? He's coming to teach you that Hashem does not always use the Hanhagas HaMazal. We said there are two ways that Hashem runs the world. One is the Hanhagas HaMazal, or Hanhagas HaYichud, that Hashem is directing the world to its final conclusion. But we said there's another way that Hashem directs the world. That's reward and punishment. So don't think, though, that Hashem is only using one of those ways. Hashem alternates between these two ways how to run the world. Right? He uses which hanhaga at what point that is good for it. Hashem prepared many systems for the rectification of the world, the completion of the world. Like we explained, he put in two ways to run the world: the way of reward and punishment, and the way of mazel. And he chooses. Sometimes Hashem decides to run the world with Hanhagas HaYichud, Hanhagas HaMazal, and sometimes He wants to use Hanhagas Schar V'Onish. Whatever's better for the world. Amnam. When Hashem uses the Hanhaga of reward and punishment, you call Hanyanim Hanodim Lefi Sidra Schar V'Onish. That means everything that's happening in the world is a result of His Hanhaga of reward and punishment. When Hashem is using the Hanhaga of Mazel, everything that happens in the world is going to be because of this Hanhagas HaMazel. Now he's going to continue to explain. Now because of this, it comes out that the righteous, they get more reward than they would have otherwise. Why? Let's say Hashem only used Hanhagas HaYichud. So we said that means Hashem is allowing evil to exist and evil to grow so that one day He could destroy it. Now, what's that mean? That means righteous people are going to always suffer. Because when evil is great, the good people suffer. And that would be a test. There would be a test if people were suffering. But it wouldn't be such a big test. Why? Why? Because they would feel good in a sense because, I'm suffering? That must mean I'm a tzaddik. Right? If Hashem only operated the world with Hanhagas HaYichud and He's allowing evil to grow, and you're suffering, that means you're a righteous person. That means you're a tzaddik. I'm suffering, I'm having a hard life. Okay, it's difficult, I agree, but at least I know that I'm a tzaddik. I'm going to go to Olam Haba. And anyone who has any brain in his head would say, I would rather suffer in this world to get Olam Haba in the next world, because I'd be guaranteed that I'm a tzaddik. I'm suffering, but tzaddik v'rala, like a guy suffers. There was Rabbi Becker said that he had a friend who fell over and hurt himself, and he said, tzaddik v'rala, right? Righteous person, bad things happen. Because you'll see in the world that the evil people, they don't suffer. Amnon, but however, Hashem wanted to make the world that it'll be a greater test for the righteous. What's a greater test? A person can't know how Hashem is, why Hashem is doing something to a particular person. What appears in the world is that the same stuff happens to the righteous and the same stuff happens to the evil people. So, since there are two Hanhagas in the world, there's Hanhagas HaYichud and there's reward and punishment, so a person's suffering. So, is he going to say, he can't say, I'm suffering, I must be a tzaddik because Hashem only uses Hanhagas HaYichud. Now, that could be, that's possible, or it could be, I'm a Rasha and I'm being punished because I did something wrong. So it comes out that Hashem designed the world in such a way that we can never know exactly why something's happening. Right? A bad thing can happen to a person. It's two possibilities. Either I did an Aveira and Hashem's punishing me for it, or I'm a tzaddik, I'm 100% pure, and the reason I'm suffering is because I'm a tzaddik, and because that's the way Hashem allows evil to grow before Mashiach comes. So how do we react? So we have to react. So part of the test of being alive is not knowing, is having the faith that even though we don't know exactly why something is happening to us at the current moment, nevertheless we have faith in Hashem that what's happening is just. Now how should we react if a bad thing happens? We have to assume that we're not totally perfect. We have to say, okay, maybe I'm not a tzaddik, maybe I'm not 100% of a tzaddik, and let me think, why am I suffering? Did I do something wrong to deserve this? And if you can't figure out why Mida Keneged Mida, then learn more Torah and do tshuva. And okay, so let's continue. This is explained in the Medrash. King Solomon looked ahead with his prophecy in the future generations, and he saw that things that were happening to the righteous were also happening to the wicked. Hashem showed King Solomon in the future that there was a certain Rasha who was violating an Avera, violating a sin, and he suffered because of that. And then Hashem showed him a tzaddik who was very, very careful in that Avera, never to violate that Avera, and he was suffering the same way. So Hashem was showing King Solomon that we could never know why certain things happen. He brings examples here on the bottom. One was that Yoshio, king of Yehuda, was killed with arrows, who was a righteous king, while Achav also was killed with arrows, who was a Rasha. And then he says that David HaMelech reigned for 40 years, and he built the Beis HaMikdash, while Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, and he also reigned for 40 years. So we see that the same things could happen to a Rasha that could happen to a tzaddik. Now, this is a test, because we're supposed to realize that we never know how Hashem is deciding to run the world. We can't know that. Human beings can't know how Hashem is running the world. We have to have the emunah that everything is just. Why did Hashem make the world like that? So that He can give more reward to the righteous. That strengthen their faith. Umasha Amar Kasab, it's what the verse says, V'tzadik be'emunah, so yichya, the righteous person in his faith will live. A person can never know exactly why Hashem is doing something to him. Can't know. Because sometimes Hashem is dealing with a person with Hanhagas HaMazel, and meaning he's suffering because he's a total tzaddik, and it's necessary for the rectification of the world that this tzaddik suffers, and sometimes it's because he's suffering because of Schar V'Onish, because he did something wrong, and Hashem wants to erase his sins. We never know. You never can know. And anything that happens to a person, we can never know. Until the heart becomes very storm mode. A person has all these thoughts. Why is this happening to me? I don't know. But someone who has faith in Hashem, he has to strengthen this idea of faith. That everything is from Hashem. Whatever happens, Hashem is totally just. There's no injustice from Hashem. Not like the wicked that say that the way of Hashem is not just. A person should strive to serve Hashem with a perfect service. We call perfect Hashem. The general rule is this: there are two ways that God runs the world. Reward and punishment. Reward and punishment means that we get rewarded for our deeds and we get punished for our deeds. But Derech HaMazel, but there's another way Hashem runs the world that we're less familiar with, which is called Derech HaMazel, that independent of our deeds, nothing to do with our deeds, God is pushing human history to a point where there'll be a revelation that He is one. And we said the way that happens is by allowing evil to grow, not stopping evil, in order that at the end of days Hashem could destroy that evil and have a greater revelation. So, and we said that means when that evil grows that righteous people suffer. So now someone's suffering. Is he suffering because he did something wrong, or is he suffering because of Hanhagas HaMazel? And he says we can never know. So how do we respond to that? We have to respond by serving Hashem with perfect faith. We know that Hashem is running the world. Everything is not just happenstance, and the reason is Hashem made the world like that is because He wants the righteous. He gave us free choice. He wants the righteous people to decide to have that faith. And how does Hashem choose at what point to do whatever? Hashem chooses what's best for the world, and we don't know. Okay, I think we'll stop here for today.